Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN The Hub's Fantasy Baseball Waiver Wire Show every Thursday at 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. I am here, as always, with Casey Vlad to the Bone Scheinbold. And guess who's back? Ross the Boss.
Back hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk baseball waiver wire with you.
Wow.
Cowboy.
My God, he's got a lot of pent-up energy.
Listen,
we understand, Ross, not only did you have COVID, but you also went to the dentist. These are the kinds of things that lead to lots of pent-up energy. Ross has nice, clean teeth.
I got my teeth cleaned. Amazing gums, I was told. Amazing. Not good, not great, but amazing gums.
This is classic Ross the Boss. If you've been missing in the last couple of weeks, Ross says that he is the best at everything. He's right about some of them. I don't know about his gums. We'll have to see. Guys, we're going to dive right in with our pickups. In Yahoo leagues, we're looking at 60% and under rostership. But I do want to acknowledge our poster boy, J.P. Crawford, was under 60% when we decided on this. He's gone up probably because of us. But there were other reasons, too. It may even be because of his play. So, guys, here's what we've been doing. We're each going to name our top 4 pickups at any position. And
any position, okay.
Any position at all. Then we're going to go in position by position. And what I'm going to ask for you is to name 1 or 2 players that you'd pick up at that position. Priority pickups, we just want to get people as much information as possible. We know that early in the season, it's especially important to be able to pick up the right players. You got to pounce now. Your waiver wire is going to feel really bare in like maybe 8 weeks, something like that. It's going to be picked dry. Then other guys will start to cycle through, especially as people stop paying attention. There's going to be another round of it. But right now, you got to pounce. So, Casey, I'm going to start with you. Give us your top 4 pickups of the week. And if you steal mine, I will kill you.
Well, I feel kind of dirty because J.P. Crawford obviously was my top pickup this week, and he's now over 62%. But so I'm gonna keep it, even though he's at 62%. He is crushing the ball. He's walking more than he's striking out. This was a top prospect who's kind of that post-type sleeper. Flamed out a little bit in Philadelphia. They gave up on him. I think Seattle's reaping the benefits. He's in the middle of a really good and improved lineup. Number 2 is Eric Hosmer. This guy is kind of forgotten because he's in San Diego where Machado and Tatis take all the pub, but he is just crushing the ball right now, batting over 400, not hitting for tremendous power. He's not going to, but he gets RBIs, he gets runs, and he's giving you average 3 categories off the waiver wire is pretty darn good. So he's my number 2. I'm going with Alec Boehm in Philadelphia. The reason why is because third base is really thin, and this guy seems to have figured it out a little bit. He got pushed. He struggled last year, got pushed this spring, and he's putting it together. He's sitting for a high average. He's knocking in runs. Philadelphia's really benefiting, and third base is really weak. A lot of people are struggling. And then my 4th one, I'm listing him not because I think he's a top 4 pickup, but because I own Adalberto Mondesi, so I am struggling with the news today that he tore his ACL and is out for the remainder of the year. I had banked on him getting me steals for most of the season, so I'm going with Jorge Mateo in Baltimore because he plays the shortstop position. He also qualifies at second in outfield, so he gives you a little more versatility than Mondesi does. Steals bases, and he's in a lineup that's going to let him run, and he's in a lineup that's going to have a leash, that's going to give him a long leash because Baltimore's a building team, so it's not like they're worried about slowing the runners down at the end of the game so that they can compete or stay in the game or guarantee the win. I think Mateo is going to steal a ton of bases, and he's going to get a lot of opportunity. He might not hit for a high average, but for those Mondesi owners like myself and you need somebody to replace it, that's who I'm looking at.
My condolences to the Mondesi owners. I was one of them in the MFSN league. It's a tough blow. You know, some people jokingly have called him Fragile Berto Mondesi.
Yeah.
But I don't like to kick a man when he's down. The guy is a real-life person hurting. He's a super huge talent, and we wish him all the luck in the world getting back on the diamond next year. Casey, I know you owned him in our keeper league, so my condolences to you as well. All right.
You drop him.
Ross, I'm going to turn it to you, except I'm going to steal somebody. Do you mind?
Do anything you want, Dan. I have confidence. I'm ready. Just throw some ideas out there. Go ahead.
All right. Listen. One guy that has become an absolute priority pickup is Taylor Ward.
I have him too. He was my first
I'm sure he was on your list.
Of course he took him, yeah.
I had to steal him. I mean, 55% rostership.
Tell me why. Now, I live in California. I live in
Los
Angeles.
You talk about him. I just wanted to mention.
So tell me why you like Taylor Ward so much. Because he's hitting 395, and he has 4 home runs, and he's playing for the Angels, and he's batting leadoff? Is that why you like him?
Yes.
Don't forget about the 13 runs scored and the 9 RBIs, too.
And even a steal, and I believe he's got two caught.
That's why I like him. He leads off, and he has protection with Trout, and he has protection. He has protection all through that lineup. Is that why you like him? Yeah, I like him too.
You know what? I'm going to tell you another reason I like him. He is a former high pick. It's amazing how quickly people forget.
Very good memory. Again, I live in Los Angeles, so I'm very aware about the Angels and what they're doing with the youth movement. And Brandon Marsh, I know he looks like a homeless guy, but he's been having a great year. And Joe Adell is another guy who's a young guy. They brought him up last year. He struggled. This year he's doing a lot better. But all three of those Angel outfielders, I like them. But like you just said, Tyler Ward, I think I like a little better than Marsh or Adell. But you can't go wrong with any three of those guys. And it's only April. Remember that. I mean,
all right. So I apologize for my selfishness in stealing Taylor Ward. No,
you're not stealing. We're all work together. We're all trying to help the common man.
That's right. Exactly.
And that's our mission here, is to help the common man. Exactly. My second guy is, you're going to love this, Dan, because I know you're a big fan of Major League, is Andrew Vaughn. And you're saying, I'm not saying Vaughn the pitcher. I'm saying Vaughn I think he's an outfielder. He had an okay year last year, probably average. It wasn't great. Remember, the average batting average right now for Major League Baseball is 231. And you're saying 230? Are you serious? Yeah, it's 231. It's not too good, Casey Scheinfeld. So Vaughn has 4 home runs. He's hitting 286. He has some power. The White Sox have been awful this year. I mean, Dan and I both picked them to win the World Series. I don't know. I don't think they're going to. They'll be lucky to finish the division in second place. I don't know. They're playing horribly.
Let's not say they're playing horribly. They've been bit by the injury bug worse than anybody.
Right, but can't score runs, Casey Scheinfeld. When you can't score runs, you're not going to win.
When like 4 of your top 6 hitters are out of the lineup because of injuries, top 2 pitchers. It's
been tough sledding. I still think they can easily win the World Series. I'm not changing my pick at all. I think the main thing that's going to hold them back from winning the World Series is possibly Tony La Russa being too old school, not able to adapt. We'll see. But I like Andrew Vaughn. By the way, I should mention, I believe he's now over 60% as well. But we're doing 62% and below because
he just got when I did the research, he was just.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah. And this pitching staff is probably the best starting pitching staff in baseball. If you want to argue with me, go ahead. But Eric Lauer for the Milwaukee Brewers, this is a stat that Dr. Dan Ratner loves. This is like his favorite thing. This is how he determines if he picks up pitchers or he doesn't. He laughs about it. You're a little chuckle, but that's the truth. So he's pitched 16 innings. Dr. Dan Ratner, guess how many strikeouts he has?
I think he's like 21 or something.
23.
Like that.
You were close though. Very impressed. So his ERA is under 3. He's pitching unbelievable. His last start was good. He has not had one bad start the whole year, and he's on a Milwaukee team that is going to win the division. I mean, they're that whole rotation is really good. Casey Scheinfeld. They also have a guy named Ashby who's really good too. Yeah. Aaron Ashby. It's not Alan Ashby. Remember him back in the 70s and 80s? It's not that guy.
And then there was Andy Ashby in the 90s.
Oh, there you go. But I love the Milwaukee pitching staff. Hader already has 10 saves. Whoever has him in our league is a genius. I don't know who that guy is, but the guy should get a medal.
He's wearing a hat that says Wood on it. Just a small hat.
Okay. So I also agree with Casey with the first baseman Hosmer in San Diego is having a great year. And every time I check the stat sheet, the guy has like 2 or 3 hits. I mean, he's just on fire. Hopefully you have a first baseman you can drop. Joey Votto. Joey Votto. You should drop any red you have. You drop. They're a horrible team, worse than baseball. And I'm a Reds fan.
Thank God for the Bengals.
That's all I have to live for right now. But those are my must pickups for the week. And I mentioned on top all 3 of those Angel outfielders I love. I love the youth movement they're doing in Anaheim, and you can't go wrong.
All right, I do want to say Eric Lauer is my top starting pitcher pickup.
Love it.
At these numbers, it's a no-brainer. I think he struck out 13 in a game recently.
He did against the Phillies. I think you're right.
He's on a great staff. He's definitely pounce on him now. This is the kind of thing that you want to get on early in the waiver wire. I'm going to mention a couple others. I mentioned Jeremy Pena last week, and by the way, Casey, Alec Baum, I had him last week, so I was a little ahead of you on that one. But I think you're totally right. Third base. Got to pounce on him. Jeremy Pena is still a great pickup. AJ Pollock, the guy's going to get injured at some point, yes, but he's going to perform when he plays.
Okay, I just dropped A.J. Pollock to pick up Andrew Vaughn. And
it depends on the league, though, Ross. Listen,
I know, but it's just like
depends on your roster.
You know, if he's hitting under 200, 0 home runs and like 1 or 2 RBIs, he gets dropped. Sorry.
That may be, but somebody's going to scoop him up. It's the same thing that happened with Charlie Blackmon, by the way. I dropped him in one league. I picked him up in another, and obviously I'm happy in the one I picked him up in.
Well, you were desperate, but go on.
I was, but I got lucky. It happens. Sometimes that happens. Okay, Christian Javier, another good starting pitcher pickup. The Astros went to a 6-man rotation. It looks like Urquidy is struggling to some degree. I think Javier is going to stick in that lineup in that starting rotation. But Casey and I had talked about this also. We recommended him the last 2 weeks because even if he doesn't, his numbers are so good and he pitches enough, and he's going to pick up middle relief wins at times too. You want him on your team 100%. Now that he's a starter, it could be even better. Tanner Rainey is one of the closer guys that I would mention that's still under 60% rostership. Scoop him up, guys. You know, to compete.
Let me ask a question about Tanner Rainey. I know he
pitches
in Tampa Bay.
And no, he's in Washington.
Washington, excuse me.
So the one thing you said you knew about him was incorrect. But let's keep going.
Let's not harp on that.
I got them mixed up. So Rainey in Washington, is he the closer? I mean, Finnegan's no longer the closer.
Oh, he is the closer.
So he's the closer. Okay.
This brings new meaning to the words Finnegan's wake. Finnegan is he's done. Well, that was a very highbrow reference.
Well played.
Show. You're welcome, everyone.
Played Shakespeare. Okay, go ahead.
All right, guys. We've named our top ads that we would scoop up, our top 4 each. Now we're going to move to positions. I want you to stick to 1 or 2 that you would recommend that we haven't mentioned so far. We're going to do catchers first. Ross, I'm going to start with you. Who's a guy you'd recommend scooping up that's flying a little bit under the radar, or at least is under 60% and available?
Yeah, I mean, Zach Collins of Toronto, he's been hitting the ball. He's been getting 2 hits, 1 hit every night. I think he's hitting like around 282 with 3 home runs. Their other catcher is hurt right now, so Zach's getting most of the catches. I like him. I also like this guy. I hate his first name. His first name's Jonah. I hate that name. I don't know why, but I'll let you guess. Jonah Hem, he has been killing the ball. He's right now he's at his wife's having a baby, so he's not in the ballpark right now. He'll be back in a couple of days. I think it's a boy. You guys should all send him a gift to be unbelievable. But you know, he's hitting over 300, and he hit a grand slam a few days ago. He's unbelievable. But Jonah is another guy, but he's a streamer. He's not going to be keeping that job for that long. But when he's in there, make sure you start him.
All right, Casey, who do you have?
Well, I think Austin Nola in San Diego is still a smart pickup. I know he struggled at the beginning of the year, but he's a really good player. We've seen what he can do before, and he's in a good lineup. So that catcher is such a thin position. If you can get anything out of it, you should be happy. And so I'm good. I would bet on the bounce back for him. To get to Ross said Zach Collins. If you're going to pick up Zach Collins, I think that's a smart pickup, but I'd also pick up Danny Jansen and stick him in your IL spot because he's a good guy to have when he gets healthy. They might replace Collins with him. But the second one I'm going to recommend is the same guy. I think I recommended him last week, is Adlee Ruchman. He's not up yet, but Baltimore is going to call him up soon. I think he's finally healthy and starting to rake already in AAA or AA, wherever they have him. I think he's going to be in the minors only for a few weeks. And then once he gets up, he's going to be planted in the middle of that lineup, and he's not going to leave it for 10 to 12 years. So it's somebody I would pick up now and stash him if I had any space on my roster.
All right. 2 guys I would mention. Francisco Mejia, we've talked about. I am well aware he has COVID, so he's not going to help you right now. But the fact is, Mike Zunino is struggling at a level well beyond what he usually struggles at, even with batting average. He's not even hitting for power very much. I think Francisco Mejia is going to take over the reins of that. Scoop him up now. I think you can actually stash him in your IL spot, so it's another great thing to do. Another guy that I would think about picking up, and you all are going to laugh at me, but Yadier Molina, listen, I don't care how old he is, and I don't even care that he's struggling. He has the track record. I do think if you're really hurting at catcher, take advantage of the fact that he is now 12% rostered, because that's going to go way up as soon as people see he's one of the few capable catchers out there. Scoop him up. All right, we're going to move to first base. Ross, I'll let you start off again.
Well, it's one of our top 4 picks. I'll just say his name again, Eric Hosmer. I mean, he's under 60%. He's an obvious pickup. You should definitely try to pick him up. Another guy that I like a lot, I know you guys mentioned him, is Nathaniel Lowe.
You got it. Nice
Nathaniel
job.
Lowe. I mean, he's been hitting over 300. He's in Texas. And when it gets hot in Texas, it's not even hot yet. The ball goes flying over the fence. The high-scoring games, there's no pitching at all. So Lowe right now could be a great pickup for you. Again, first base is like loaded this year. So I don't even know if you have room for him, but if you do, pick him up. Another guy I like, he plays for Tampa. I believe he's Korean, is Ji-Man Choi. He is hitting over 300. He's having a really good year right now, and he's playing almost every day. And as we know, Tampa Bay loves to find these guys you never heard of, and they have great years. So could be a good pickup right there. But those are my first baseman pickups for the week.
I like it, and very impressive pronunciation, Ross. Well done. All right, Casey, what do you got?
I'm only going to add one. I had Ji-Man Choi on there too, but I'm going to go. You and I talked about him, I think, a little bit last week. Patrick Wisdom in Chicago qualifies at first, third, and outfield, so he gives you some versatility. Not hitting for a great average, only 235. But as Ross pointed out at the beginning of the show, that's above average. As sad as that sounds. But he scored 11 runs and driven in 13 runs. And those counting stats are pretty darn useful. Those are impressive. And they rank him, he's 78th on the season in Yahoo rankings. So if you can get him and you have 3 positions to plug him at, that's a pretty good pickup.
I agree. I probably would pick him up primarily as a third baseman because, as you pointed out, that's the thinnest position. But I think Patrick Wisdom is a good pickup. Meanwhile, I think the happiest baseball fans around are all named Mendoza because the Mendoza line is looking pretty good right now. It's really not too bad, which is shocking and disturbing for this older baseball fan. All right, I'm going to recommend a Cleveland Guardians player, Josh Naylor. He's coming up. He's playing well. He's starting to get good playing time. He's got outfield eligibility as well. I think he's going to keep it up. But this is one of those ones that you add kind of at the back end of your roster and you see. Sometimes these guys just go on a tear and they become a staple in your lineup. I think if you've got a roster spot to spare and you're kind of mining first base or even outfield for that matter, since he does qualify there, scoop him up. Let's see how he does. I like him over the next number of weeks to solidify that role he's got. All right, second base. Casey, we're going to start with you this time. By the way, I have found second base is, some people say that it's really deep. It depends on how you draft it. There's not a ton out there on the wire compared to some other positions. I agree with you. Most of the second basemen qualify at other positions as well. And so, the ones I'm going to mention also qualify at either shortstop, third base, or outfield. So these guys are second basemen, but they're kind of utility guys. The first one I'm going to mention is Joey Wendell in Miami. He's been playing great the last couple of weeks, qualifies at second, short, and third. So he gives you tremendous flexibility across the infield. 3 stolen bases, batting over 300, scoring some runs. That's solid across the board that can help you at any one of those positions. The other guy I'll mention at second base, because I'm not going to mention Jorge Mateo, as we already talked about him, is Santiago Espinal. He's taken Kevin Biggio's job at second base there in Toronto, and he's taken it because he's batting 263. He's driving in 10 runs. He's got a couple stolen bases and a couple home runs. So he's contributing at least modestly in all 5 categories, which you can't complain about at this point in the season, particularly at second base. And sometimes I think you just want to pick up the guy who's in a great lineup. He's in a great lineup. He's getting playing time. You can do a lot worse than him. I'm going to mention a guy similar to Joey Wendell. He doesn't have quite as much position eligibility, but Nico Horner has caught my attention with the Cubs. He's a contact guy. I'm going to mention 2 contact guys, actually, because Luis Reyes of Minnesota, these guys, they're going to be batting average assets. And right now, that's a big deal in leagues because you can't find many of those. So if you're hurting at second base, I think those are 2 guys to scoop up. Ross, who do you have?
I mentioned I did a short waiver wire pickup yesterday, on MFSN. If you want to watch it, you can. But I mentioned Wilmer Valderrama. No, I'm just kidding. Wilmer Flores, who plays. You guys were like Wilmer Valderrama.
Don't pick up anyone from that 70s show.
That 70s show, yeah. So Wilmer Flores, like Casey said, it's so valuable to get these guys that can play more than 2 positions. He plays 3. He's third base, second base, and shortstop. And it's really valuable to either have him on your bench or even starting, because when somebody goes down with COVID or somebody gets hurt, these guys can fill in. And I did it today with Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson's hurt. I mean, he hurt his groin. It's not, and he's having an MRI on it. So when I hear MRI and groin together, that says 2 weeks right there, Casey Scheinfeld. 2 weeks. So I like, and I also had Wendell. I think no one hears about him because he's playing in a small market in Miami, but he's having a great year. He can steal bases, and he's hitting over 300, which is a big asset in fantasy baseball. So with two of those guys, I think are your top pickups at second base.
All right, I like those pickups, and Wilmer Flores is always underrated. By the way, he does not qualify at shortstop. He qualifies at first base, second base, and third base.
Okay.
Joey Wendell, second base, third base, and shortstop. Just trying to make it accurate for the people.
That's fine. I memorize. I try to memorize. I don't read it. I memorize all my stuff, and sometimes I get mixed up.
You get all the credit for that.
And COVID's been killing. Well, COVID's been messing me up too. So I'm blaming COVID. I'm blaming my first show back, and I won't make those mistakes later.
I do not blame you in the slightest. Now we're going to move to third base here.
Third base.
I'm going to start off. I've been beating the drum for this guy for a long time, and I've had my eye on him for a long time. Nolan Gorman, you got to pick him up now. It's not going to be long before he's up. He has 10 home runs in, I think, 17 games this year, and he's going to continue to deliver.
10? He's leading the league in home runs?
Well, not in the majors,
minor league.
in the minors. But Nolan Gorman's going to come up, and he also is going to qualify at second base because he's going to be playing at second base for the Cardinals. Because
Nolan Gorman,
Nolan.
Wait, let me ask you a question about it. So he plays third base. They're not going to get rid of their other third baseman. Where's he going to
they're going to put him at second base.
As I said, he's going to play at second base.
Okay.
They're going to keep both Nolans. There's a joke. They call them Nolan Gormanado. So pick up Nolan Gormanado anywhere that you can.
The name Nolan, I don't wish that name on anybody, but keep going.
Well, Nolan Ryan did pretty well with it, but I hear you. So he'd be probably my top ad at third base other than Alec Baum. Alec Baum would be my number one because he's already up in the majors playing, and he's one of these guys who quickly went to a post-type sleeper out of nowhere just from like a half a season of not doing that well. So those would be my top pickups at third base. Casey, let's go to you.
I mean, I'm going to go with Jonathan VR in Chicago. I think he qualifies at second, short, and third as well. So he's one of those versatile guys. He brings you speed. He's not guaranteed the everyday play there. That's the issue with Jonathan VR is because Horner's playing so well and they have Wisdom and Schwindel. So the positions he plays are kind of shuffled around a bit. But this is a guy who for years has been underrated in terms of his ability to have a little bit of pop, a whole heck of a lot of speed, and to score a lot of runs. And so he would be, other than Baum, who we talked about at the beginning of the show, he would be my other third baseman that I'd look to add. And then in the prospect ranks, I agree with you that Gorman is number one. I'm going to say Jose Miranda is probably number two in Minnesota. This is another guy who's tearing the cover off the ball. Big time prospect. There's not Gio Urshela is a really solid third baseman, but they're not going to use him to prevent Miranda from getting the call and from playing in Minnesota when he's ready, especially considering Minnesota is a surprise contender so far this year in that AL Central.
And don't forget also, there's DH in both leagues now, and people are resting more than ever because we've got this kind of fragile sense of people. So there's a lot of people. We have a fragile Berto ideology about the whole league. So people are getting playing time. Just look at the at-bats, and if they're playing 5 out of 7 games a week, that's worth rostering if they're putting up good numbers. Ross, who do you have at third base?
So Moustakas, who plays for the Reds, he came back today. He's been off the list for 2 weeks. First 2 at-bats, 2 for 2. Not too bad. I'm not recommending. I mean, you got to be really desperate to pick him up, though. The Reds are horrible. I too had Jonathan.
Endorsement.
I too had Jonathan. I just want to let you know Moustakas is back with the Reds. That's all. And then somebody I was surprised he's like so low
rostered.
It's Maikel Franco. I mean, he's like 7%, and he's hitting about 278, which is way above the league average. I mean, and Franco's like a good hitter. I mean, he's not a bad guy to have on your team. I'm just surprised he's like 7-8. I think he was 7% when I saw him last. I'm just I thought he'd be at least like 20 or 30, but third base, there's some good third basemen out there. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
And you bring up, I think we've all tried to bring up a good point without actually saying what the point is. Don't ignore bad lineups. We've talked about this every year. Last year, Robbie Grossman, we were banging the drum on him because he was in Detroit. Nobody, or Candelario in Detroit last year, people avoided him because they were like, it's Detroit, it's terrible. Terrible lineups can still produce solid fantasy players. And so Maikel Franco's in Kansas City, not a lineup that's really going to tear the cover off the ball. Most people don't think of anybody outside of Witt, Merrifield, Bobby Witt, or Salvador Perez. But some of these guys can put up really solid numbers, even though they're not in great lineups. And so don't ignore that. Don't just say, I want the guys from the stacked offense. Don't be too picky.
Don't be Dan Ratner. Be original.
Oh my God. I feel like I need to hire a lawyer to help me with that character assassination there. Completely untrue.
Okay, Johnny Depp, keep going.
All right. We're going to move to shortstop, guys.
Okay.
I think people are struggling at shortstop in certain ways, especially with injuries to guys like Mondesi. But who would you recommend, Ross? Let's start with you.
I mean, we talked about him before, Jeremy Pena of Houston. I mean, he's playing every game. He already has like 60-something at bats. He's solid. I mean, he's not gonna like hit for power that much, but having there, he can steal bases. He's fast. I also like Gregorius of Philadelphia, ex-Red. He's having a really good season. He's hitting like over 300 right now, and he's again over 300. He's not going to hit many home runs, but he will steal some bases. And he's just a solid shortstop, and he's not going to hurt you in batting average at all.
Casey, who you got?
I like the Pena pick. I'm going to go with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa of the Yankees.
Of course.
He's hitting for a really good ad. Yep, I'm a Yankee fan, bang the drum. But this is a guy who's scoring a lot of runs, hitting for a decent average, and he provides some speed. He's already got 2 stolen bases on the year. He is a speed guy. We loved him a lot in the past 3 or 4 years because he also qualified a catcher. He doesn't have that catcher qualification anymore. That certainly doesn't help his value, but he's a solid shortstop. If you're looking for somebody because you're scrambling, we've mentioned some guys already at second base who also qualify at shortstop, but this is a shortstop only guy. And the other one I'm going to say is O'Neal Cruz in Pittsburgh. He's not up yet, but everybody anticipates he's going to be up before the summer. He's kind of that he's 6'7" and plays shortstop. He's got power. He's got speed. It's kind of like looking at Kevin Durant trying to play shortstop, but the dude can play. And he's going to get a chance to play as soon as he gets called up.
All right, I'm going to add a couple guys. These are some speed guys because everybody's hurting for stolen bases. Nikki Lopez was already a kind of interesting own to begin with. But with Mondesi going down, I think he's going to have even more room to run. And listen, a lot of times you've got to pick the place in your lineup where you can just go after a stat. If you're weak at shortstop and you need stolen bases, Nikki Lopez is a great addition. I also would say, I would say stick with C.J. Abrams. I know he's slumping massively, but he's a young kid. He's going to figure this out. In the second half of the year, I think he's going to be an absolute monster. I could be wrong about that, of course, but I think you want to stay with him. If you want to cut him and move on, I understand, especially in redraft leagues. In keeper leagues, do not let this guy go. All right, guys, let's move to outfield. Ross, I'll start with you again. I'm going to give you some top preference because of your former COVID status. You're back.
So with outfielders, I mentioned all 3 of the Angel outfielders, Joe Adell, Brandon Marsh, who looks homeless, and also Tyler Ward, who was one of our top pickups for the week. So with those 3 guys, you'll find at least one of them will be on waiver wire. So at least try to pick up one of them. But again, Tyler Ward's are my favorite. And then I'll go down to Marsh, and then I'll go to Adell. I also like, as I mentioned, Andrew Vaughn, but another guy that's had a great 2019. He had a great season there, and then he kind of struggled in 2020, was average in 2021. But right now he has 4 home runs, is Max Kempler of the Twins. He is hitting the ball really well. I mean, he's driving the ball, and he's hitting for power right now. And Minnesota, as we know, is probably the most improved team in baseball from last year with their lineup and their pitching they picked up. So that all being said, I like Max. I think it's a good pickup for him this week. And if you need an outfielder, he's a good guy to pick up.
All right. Just for clarification of pronunciation, it's Max Kempler, but he's one of these guys that we joke is like one of the bar mitzvah boys. Robbie Grossman is another. And Robbie Grossman, meanwhile, still, I think, a good pickup. So he's somebody I recommend. I'm going to mention though,
and he's not a Jew. Just see, and he's not a Jew. He's not Jewish. So people thinking he got bar mitzvah, he did not get bar mitzvah. He's not Jewish. He's from Texas.
Yes, and his Jewish mother is very disappointed. No, I'm kidding. He's not Jewish. Another guy I'm going to mention is Ramon Laureano. This guy's coming back from suspension. Many people may have forgotten about him, but he's a power speed guy. He's only 27% rostered. He's going to be playing for Oakland, and guess what? They're going to play him a lot because they're either going to play him until he's ready to be traded for someone else since they're vacating all of their talent, or he's just going to get a lot of playing time because there isn't a lot there. He's a great player to own. He batted .246 last year, which in today's day and age is like approaching a 300 hitter. It's embarrassing. Guys, we have a comment, and then we'll get back to more outfield.
Go ahead.
This is from Christopher Atwater, our friend.
He was at my wedding. Yeah.
He was at my wedding.
I get it mixed up.
Maybe he was at your wedding. I don't know. Okay, here's what Chris says.
He wasn't there.
He says, Xander, who I overdrafted, according to y'all, seems to be doing okay. Haha, great show. Glad I could catch you today. Glad to have you here, Chris. Now, I don't recall calling him overdrafted myself. Casey, was that you?
That was me. I think he went 4th overall or 5th overall, and I'll stand by that. I'm not saying he's not a great player. I just don't think he's a top 5 or 6 fantasy player.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't know. I always find this. There's certain players who seem to understand something about the game that I didn't understand. Maybe Chris looked at it and was like, "Ooh, shortstop is a minefield this time. I'm going to take him." Now I know he's also a Boston fan, so that's part of it. But Chris always does well with his strategy. I'm following it, Chris. I like it. And we were working on a trade.
Big SEC guy. NFL draft is tonight. I'm sure
he's a Saints fan, I think, isn't he?
He is a Saints fan. Absolutely.
Can't stand the Saints.
Now, okay. By the way, for the NFL draft, I'm wearing a Houston Oilers shirt. It's funny to wear to a baseball show, but I never leave a comrade behind, including teams. The Houston Oilers used to be a rival of ours. Listen, NFL draft, I just needed to note that.
So I don't understand the correlation with the draft and the Houston Oilers. Explain.
It's one word, football. That's it.
Okay,
we'll move past that. Guys, outfielders, I mentioned mine. Casey, I think you didn't get a chance to mention yours.
Yeah, I really like the Max Kempler call. That was certainly one of my top pickups. Obviously, we all love the Angels outfield right now. They're all worthy. I mean, Adele's struggling, but he's got the most talent probably of all of them, so I would invest in him. Another Minnesota Twin I would consider is on the IL is Alex Kiriloff. This guy is he crushes the ball when he's healthy. He's coming back from a wrist. I think he had inflammation in his wrist. He's on a rehab assignment now. They expect him back next week. I would get him. He also qualifies at first, so he can help you there a little bit. Another guy I would consider is Harrison Bader there in St. Louis because the guy runs. He's got 4 stolen bases on the year. He's not going to hit for tremendous power, but he's going to score runs. He's not going to hurt you in average. He might not help you, but he's not going to hurt you. And he's going to help you in steals, which is obviously, as we've all talked about at length, the hardest category to find at various times.
All right, I'm just going to add one. I noticed another outfielder that I've been wondering about. I just wanted to throw him in the mix to see what people think. It's Anthony Santander, the Baltimore outfielder. He seems to be coming on of late, putting up some good numbers. Somebody worth taking a look at. By the way, Chris Atwater says, if we, meaning the New Orleans Saints, take a quarterback, I am jumping off a bridge. This is another reason that I hope that the Saints won't take a quarterback.
That sounds a little hyperbolic.
Listen, there are...
Hyperbolic, that's a medical term. Explain to the audience what that means.
Well, hyperbole means speaking in extreme exaggeration.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could say that it's an English term or a physics term. There's many... Whatever you do, Chris, if they do take a quarterback, call me.
Yeah, they're not taking a quarterback.
They're not. I don't know. The quarterbacks are going to fall way down. How did we get on the weeds?
They're taking a defensive tackle.
But I don't think they're taking one in the first round. They say they're taking Trevor Penning? Is that who everybody's predicting for them?
That's what they said, yeah. But I think they'll take a defensive player, New Orleans.
I don't know, but I do know this. I'm running a waiver wire baseball show. So I'm going to get this back on the rails here.
I'm excited about
football another time. Guys, we're moving to starting pitching. I know we mentioned Eric Lauer was one of my top pickups and one of Ross's top pickups. Casey, who's one of your top pickups that's 60% and under?
Well, Christian Javier was one of my top because you and I have talked about him for a couple weeks. Paul Blackburn in Oakland has been pitching really well. He's almost a strikeout an inning. He's already got 3 wins on the year, a 1.35 ERA, a 0.8 WHIP. I'm not sure if he can keep it up, but in pitching, we look for streakers, as we like to call them here, and he's one who, depending on the matchup, would be a good pick. Michael Waka pitched really well last night. This is a former St. Louis Cardinal kind of hotshot prospect who is now in Boston, and he pitched really well last night. He's going to have a spot in that rotation. It's a good lineup. The problem is he's pitching in the AL East, and that is brutal to try to go through on a regular basis.
Yep.
But those would be two starters I would consider looking at.
All right, Ross, make some recommendations.
Tony Gonsolin of the Dodgers. I'm surprised he's not over 60%. I mean, every time he starts, he pitches great. His ERA is under 2. He looks like Joe Dirt, so that's a plus. I mean, he's been money all year. I mean, the Dodgers use him as long relief. They use him as a starter. And I just want to make sure our audience knows, even if they're like long relief, it's not a bad thing. I mean, some long relievers get more innings than starters, especially now in baseball, because they don't let starters go more than 5 or 6 innings unless you're a Toronto Blue Jay. But that all being said, he's somebody. Another guy that I like is Josiah Gray. He passes Dan's test. 28 strikeouts, 20 innings. I know his ERA, Casey. I know it's over 4. I don't want to hear, his ERA is 4. This guy has so much talent. I put him up like near Hunter Green talent. He's really good. He was in the Dodger farm system for many years, and they traded him to Washington. He can pitch well. And I'm going to mess this name up because it's Greek, and he pitches for St. Louis, which is the team I dislike probably the most. And his name is Miles Michaelis. He's been like every start. He's been like 5 innings, 6 innings, barely any runs. I think his last start, he gave up 0 runs and 2 hits. I mean, this guy has been money. He's under 60% and could be a good pickup. And I also love the ex-Red Michael Lorenzen. He's like a muscle man. I don't know if you guys ever seen this guy, but he's like huge. He's a great hitter too. He's a great athlete. Great story behind him if you ever want to read about it. It's unbelievable. But he pitches for the Angels. He had a great start last time he pitched for them, and he has all the tools to be a great pitcher, and he's putting together this year.
All right, I'm going to mention one of these middle reliever type
okay,
guys.
I'm listening.
So Michael King is putting up some crazy numbers.
Yeah, he was my top reliever.
And,
really? Wow.
We can get him in relief into relievers, but the thing is, he's got starting pitching eligibility. And so if you're struggling at your starting staff, get a couple of these guys. Fill them in. It makes a huge, huge difference. So Michael King would be a guy that I would add. I mean, I like the guys you mentioned as starters more. Another guy that I kind of wonder about is Jamison Taylon. He's not pitching deep into games is my problem. And, even so, I'd probably scoop him up to see if he's just finding his footing to get further into games. Casey, you're a Yankees fan. Go ahead.
I just dropped him, but keep going.
Well, I think that's just Aaron Boone's mentality. He uses Garrett Cole in off days to rest of the bullpen, and with everybody else, he thinks, I just want 5 innings.
Yep.
And then I want to go Green, Loizaga, Chapman.
Loizaga been horrible this year. Horrible. I just dropped him.
He'll be fine.
Yep.
He'll be fine.
Johnny Lasagna.
If I can mention one stash person, and that's Max Meyer in Miami. Miami just grows pitchers on trees. This kid, I think he was perfect through 5 or 6 innings his first start, and then through another 7 shutout innings in his second minor league start. This guy is he's got crazy stuff: velocity, movement, location, command. Everything. He's going to be up. I think he's going to be great once he gets there. That's somebody if I was stashing a starter in the minors, that's the first person I would look to.
Oscar
I'm glad
Meyer
you said
got
that.
it.
Yeah. By the way, Chris Atwater says great picks, Ross the boss. He tends to like your picks a lot. You guys see each other.
Well, he was at my wedding. He was best man at my wedding. So
I guess it makes sense. So actually, I was going to mention a stash guy also. I like your stash guy better, Casey, because I think the Miami pitching staff seems to really know what they're doing. But Grayson Rodriguez of Baltimore, I don't trust the Orioles so much, but the guy has huge talent, and he's just
crazy,
destroying the minor
so
leagues.
Hard. I mean, yeah.
I just worry that he's going to face Toronto, Boston, and New York.
I hear you, and that's a way that I downgrade people. I'm finding it with Jose Berrios. I've drafted him in our league or at our keeper league, and I'm like, really?
Drop him.
Red Sox again? Oh,
drop him.
Yes.
Drop him.
Hello. Of course, he's in the alias. So watch out for that. It does downgrade, but still. You can find great value, and especially if you're in a keeper league, I think you want to jump on Grayson there. All right, relief pitching. Casey, I'll let you go since I stole one of your top relievers. I don't want
No, that's fine. I have plenty. There's a lot of relievers I think that are worth owning. I'm going to start with the same guy I say every week, Dylan Floro, Miami, injured list.
Well, let's go back to Dylan Floro real quick. When's he coming back?
He's supposed to come back next week.
And you think he's going to become the closer immediately?
Bender and Bass haven't exactly nailed down.
Bender's been money the past few times. He has 5 saves already, and he's been money the past couple of times.
I just think Floro's going to immediately go into the closer.
I'm just asking your opinion.
Into the mix.
I have no idea what's going to happen there.
Okay. The other guy I like is Ryan Hellsley in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah.
His numbers, if you look, I think 6 innings, 12 Ks, a .16 whip.
Oh.
I mean, if Gallego struggles at all, there's no reason why this guy should not be given the chance to pitch in high leverage. And even if he's only throwing 3 or 4 innings a week or 2 or 3 innings a week, if he's striking out 7 or 8 guys, that's the same as a really good starter. So,
did you see Gallego yesterday during that brawl against the Mets? You see what he did?
No. What did he do?
So huge brawl. They've been headhunting Mets like crazy. I mean, Alonso for the Mets has been hit 33 times
in the face.
Month of April, in the face, in the head. 3 times. So they didn't hit him, but they came close. So the bench is cleared. Gallegos jumps over the fence where the bullpen is, running full steam, like ready to kill somebody. I'm sure he got some punches in, but he jumped over the fence like a crazy man.
He was mad because of the blown save.
Hold that thought. I want to get back to this because the Cardinals' back end of pitching staff is important to talk about. But we've got a couple comments. Chris Atwater said, just added Michael King. Never heard of this guy. Thanks. This is what happens when you tune in live. You get this right on the money. You can jump on it. We also have a comment from a different Ross. Ross0527 says, do you guys downgrade Alek Manoah because he faces Boston and the Yankees? Now, I think he's a great young pitcher. And that's what I was saying. I don't actually downgrade Blue Jays pitchers just automatically because they're facing them. It makes it slightly less good, but the fact is, I think the cream rises to the top. If the pitcher's that good, I don't worry about it that much. Casey, I think you're a little more skittish about it.
No, actually, I don't downgrade the Toronto staff that much because the Yankees and the Red Sox don't scare me as much as the Blue Jays offense. I mean, the Blue Jays just proved that they can pitch to the Red Sox and keep them low scoring. I think they might have scored more than 2 runs once in that series. And the Yankees, as a Yankees fan, I'm seeing of their 9 hitters, I'm seeing close to 1,700 strikeouts. And so, I mean, they are swing and miss people. If you're throwing strikes, chances are you're going to be able to control that lineup. And Manoah has filthy stuff. So I don't downgrade him on that. I don't rank him in the top tier just because he's only in his 2nd year and I don't trust young pitchers that much. But Boston and New York scare me, but not nearly as much as the Boston and New York of like 2012 to 2017. Toronto's the lineup that scares me. That's why I said that about Grayson Rodriguez, because Toronto's lineup is silly. I actually don't mind Barrios that much. I'm a fan of Manoah. I'm not. I mean, even Kevin Gossman, I like. Hinju Rio or Ryu, whatever his name is. Sure. He's on the IL, but when he comes back, he's one of those crafty pitchers. Those are the ones I don't trust because if he's missing his spots, he's going to get hammered. The other guys have good enough stuff that even if they're missing their spots, they're going to get a lot of strikeouts. Yeah,
we have a follow-up. We have a follow-up from this, Ross, and then I'll get to you. But this is from the other Ross. He says Manoah doesn't give up hits. Highest he's gotten was with the Astros his last start. It really is nice when they're not putting runners on.
I love Manoah. I have him in a bunch of leagues. I feel he'll be a Cy Young contender this year, and I mean that. I feel he's the real deal. And yes, if you can trade for him, or if you can get, or if you hopefully you drafted him, you got a great one there. Don't get rid of him.
There's 3 young pitchers in the American League that I'm really excited about.
Go ahead. Who is it?
Manoah, Joe Ryan, and Logan Gilbert in Seattle. I think those 3 young pitchers are just kind of the cream of that young pitching crop.
I love those 3, and you're 100% right. No argument.
So these are great pickups across the board. I'm going to add, in terms of closers, I got a few. Go ahead. I like Munoz in Seattle. He's only 13% rostered, and you could even argue he doesn't have the job yet fully. He's currently seems to be the closer. Sewald's coming back, and I loved him last year.
Yeah, that's all you talked about. Him and Ian Happ. The whole freaking season was Ian Happ. He's the best. I love Ian Happ. Pick up Ian Happ.
Off the COVID IL today.
Ross, some people haven't watched me. All right, now I need to correct that. Ian Happ is a guy that I've been saying don't pick up.
Ever.
Yeah, he loves to do this because it winds me up.
Him and
we can have a Hunter Dozier discussion as well.
Dozier, where's he?
So, but I think Munoz, because he's and really, I do watch out for the big time strikeout guys. If he takes that job and runs with it, and Seattle's been very surprisingly good as well, that could end up being like a top closer that you got off the wire. So yeah. I'd snag him. We got another comment coming in. Got a great staff for Burns, Verlander, Manoah, Wright, and McGill. This is Ross again. That's pretty
solid. Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Context always matters. So, if that's in a 12-team league, it's even more impressive. So
yeah, how many teams are in your league?
Ross, tell us how many are in your league and kind of what the parameters are.
Yeah,
we'll understand what we're talking about.
People give us this unbelievable lineup, and we say, how many teams are in your league? Oh, there's 4 teams, and we're like, that doesn't count.
I'm sure. Now, don't malign the new Ross here.
No. I'm just telling you that I want to hear how many teams, because that's a really good pitching staff, and you actually. I wouldn't worry about starting pitching for a while. I would worry about other parts of your team, but that's me.
Let's get back to relievers for you.
There
Ross.
you go. No. Okay, so I know Anthony Bender for the Marlins. He has that job. I know his ERA is close to over 6, or maybe a little under now. But he has 5 saves, and he's been closing lately. I don't know.
He's been closing because Floro's on the DL. A 6 ERA does not stay in the ninth inning.
We'll see what happens. Jorge Lopez of Baltimore. This guy throws really hard.
I love that pickup.
Unbelievable stuff. And Baltimore's they're not losing like they did last year. They're winning a few games, and Lopez is actually doing really well as their closer. And another guy, Danny Yemez of Oakland, he's gave up 0 runs this year, and I think he has 3 or 4 saves, and he's their closer. I mean, I know Oakland won't win that many games. But if you need a closer that's not going to hurt you that much with ERA and blown saves, another guy, this guy throws so hard and so hard to hit. And there's so many bad relievers out there that are going to lose their job. But these 3 guys that we just mentioned, they probably will keep their job for a little bit and just take advantage of it and pick them up, because another guy and one more guy is a Yankee, and if they shape him up. See, I use that. If they shape him into a closer, Casey, get it? Clay Holmes. His first name's Clay.
I didn't get it until you said Clay.
Clay Holmes. He's 2 saves this week, Case, and he looks really good. His ERA is under 2.
Yeah.
I think it's under 1. And he's been throwing. He throws really hard. And Chapman, I have no confidence at all. He's getting older. He might go in the DL. Who knows what he's going to do? But he's not consistent. I think his last time he tried to close the game, he got blown out or something bad happened. But Clay Holmes, again, maybe he's the Yankee future closer. I don't know, but I'm just throwing his name out there.
People seem to be pronouncing Aroldis Chapman dead long. I think he's going to be fine for years.
Listen, I'm just saying he's a little older. And Case is the Yankee expert, so I'm not going to jump on him right now.
I agree. Now, listen, the other Ross has updated us. It's a 12-team points league. The format is based on pitching with quality starts of 7 points. So
I love it.
Obviously,
yeah. I mentioned beginning of the year, Toronto Blue Jays, they love having those pitchers go past 7 innings. Tampa Bay does not. So don't draft any Tampa Bay guys to start unless you
Tampa Bay starters start in the 3rd inning and finish in the 6th.
I do like Drew Rasmussen, though. He's a reliever and a starter, and he's been throwing really well lately. That's the only Tampa Bay guy I probably would pick up.
All right. Any other relievers to mention? Casey, did you get yours in? I'm not remembering.
I started with some. The only other one I would mention, I think, is because I'm not a Matt Barnes fan, is Hansel Robles in Boston. He's gotten a save already. Matt Barnes is notoriously sketchy as a closer. He usually loses it for a few weeks, and Robles' numbers are pretty good. 8 innings, 8 Ks, 0 ERA, 0.63 whip. So he's somebody who could take over if you want to take a flyer on somebody as a late inning reliever.
And they did something weird in Boston, Casey. I want to talk about this real quick. Whitlock, I have him on my team, I think in our keeper league.
He's filthy.
And he throws unbelievable. He was a great closer. He didn't really ruin anything. He did a great job.
He was so good, they made him a starter.
And they made him a starter. I mean, do you think it's better for him to be a closer, or do you think it's better for him to be a starter? What's your opinion? Go.
I think with the road. Oh, you're asking Casey.
I was going to say, if he can go 5 or 6 innings of that nasty, would you rather have it for 5 or 6 innings once a week, or for 3 or 4 innings over a few games?
Well, that's a great question.
Here's the other thing.
I'd
Guys,
rather have it more.
It also depends on the staff. I mean, the Boston staff is just not that strong without Whitlock. If you put him in there, it makes a big difference. By the way, the other Ross says, FYI, I have DeGrom and Soraka on the IL. Nice. Really loaded. Okay, I'm going to mention one other pitcher potentially to pick up as a reliever, and then we're going to wrap up here. Okay. Ryan Stanek got a save the other night. I would, if I had 2 roster spots, I'd scoop him, and I'd still get a Hector Neris. But it just seems to me that the Houston closer he's not Ryan Presley. I don't know. They said he didn't suffer a setback, but then they said, he just didn't advance far enough. That is managers speak for something's not right. I think you want to pounce on those. Guys, we've done our best to get you the best names possible to pick up. Please do put your comments below. We love to hear from you. We want to engage with you. We want to find out how we can help you build the best team that you can. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and that's Ross's CC Sabathia ball. And put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally. Thank you for watching. We'll be back here next Thursday, 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific, and we will be releasing shorts along the way on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, just one player to tease it and give you some of our top pickups. Before we go, Chris Atwater says the game I am playing has 12 teams, 29 scoring categories, and a minimum of 21 innings pitched. Only 4 qualify for the playoffs, and he's laughing because he's in our league. Thank you for that. The parody of our league, Chris. We deserve it 100%.
Oh, it's just for fun.
Watching, everybody. We will see you next week.